Streaming now on IWTV, Freelance Wrestling. Check our schedule for all future Freelance Wrestling live streams. Watch over 90 Freelance Wrestling events anytime on demand. Featuring Brian Keith, Kylie Ray, Storm Grayson, Bang & Matthews, Effie, and more.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP Chapas, with Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me, the doctor himself, Dr. M. Lavie Marg. Lavie, what's going on? How you doing today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing well. Just like everyone else, we're going to talk about post-Wrestlemania, but focus on some different things. But right before we were recording this, on the day we're recording, there was a really interesting article that came out from WEBEZ, written by Amber Cologne, talking about the Berwyn Eagles Club that's been on the mind of a lot of people. So if we're ready, John, we can get into that.
Yeah, I want to know more about this too, because it seems like that was a big wrestling hub and definitely a place that had a lot of wrestling and maybe not so much anymore. So what's the latest going on with them?
So the final events are planned for this weekend as we're recording. The sold-out AAW wrestling show and a lucha extravaganza from All-Star Lucha Libre on Saturday. That's just demonstrative of how much in use this independent building was. Wrestling fans say that the Eagles Club offered budget-friendly prices and free parking. Some of the world's biggest wrestling stars have passed through, which we know. The plan to end wrestling at the venue comes after a fight broke out between an unnamed fan and a wrestler, Mads Kruger, at a March 28th Ruthless Pro Wrestling show. So I want to stop here, John. I really enjoyed the interview you did with Mads Kruger a while ago. Do you think he was unfairly blamed? Because I don't think he ever came out and said, I was stabbed. I think he just didn't dispute the fact that others were reporting that he was stabbed and maybe he was trying to protect the promoter. What was your take on it?
Exactly what you just said in the latter there. That's what I said. It's like he's kind of like protecting the promoter, but he's not saying he did or didn't do it. Like he's not really commenting. He's letting the story comment on itself, and those people should maybe get the background before they comment on it. So I feel like maybe people jumped the gun. He didn't respond, and maybe that's why he got some heat, but he shouldn't have got any. Not his fault. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that he's losing bookings. And yes, he was at WrestleMania weekend, but he had to quickly lose his title and all of that. So the video sparked misleading reports about what happened at the show. So now the more newsworthy part that hasn't been reported as much at the moment. Chuck Morose Sr., who runs the club with his wife, confirmed over the phone that all wrestling events end this weekend. He declined an interview, but said he and his fellow trustees would be willing to speak in the future. Morose Sr. is listed as a trustee and the secretary of the nonprofit Fraternal Order of Eagles. They own the property. Word of the closure quickly circulated. There were donations made and so on. But the loss not only impacts the club's day-to-day operations, but also puts its long-term future at risk. As of press time, the GoFundMe has raised nearly $1,400 of the $3,000 goal. Beyond wrestling, Berwyn also hosts bingo nights, Queens of a Heart games, and community and fraternal events. Obviously, a lot less challenging to manage. Although people at bingo, they could get kind of wild. But exactly why the club is ceasing all wrestling events remains unclear. Berwyn City's attorney and chief of police confirmed with a reporter that the venue's entertainment license necessary for hosting wrestling shows has not been revoked as a result of the events of March 28th. John, I think that's a pretty good scoop that they have here, because everyone was reporting that their license was revoked. So let me go over that again.
I totally agree. It's not revoked. So that's awesome because everyone was kind of jumping the gun again. So funny how that works with the internet. Everybody's jumping the gun.
Berwyn's city attorney and chief of police confirmed with the reporter that the venue's entertainment license necessary for hosting wrestling shows has not been revoked. Berwyn Chief of Police Michael Fellows said that the Berwyn Eagles Club pays for one officer during wrestling events. After the brawl, the department recommended increasing the total number to 4. While what goes on in the ring is often scripted, what happened on March 28th was not a part of the show. Okay. The police report states that the fan in question started causing problems early in the night. Another fan, Lauren Rosenberg, sounds like one of my people, who was there on the night of the altercation, said the alleged instigator is a known problem in local wrestling circles. While he doesn't know the fan's name, Rosenberg recalls a night when the same person was obviously okay. So, right, there's a fan that's a problem, right? But I don't think they should have like beat him up and pushed him around and whatever. As the Berwyn Club winds down wrestling events, dozens of local and national promotions, including longtime venue resident AEW, have been forced to cancel their events or find new sites for the show. The wrestling shows are typically booked out months, if not years in advance. I don't know about that. Trent Zuberi, a producer for AEW, said that his company's co-owner, Danny Daniels, was first informed by Morose of the cancellation. For the last show at the Eagles Club, AEW, we're going to go out in style. We've got all the titles on the line. All of our champions are booked. We've got some surprises. The biggest part of the loss is that it's very accessible and affordable. We made the best of it because we're going to bring our prices down. It's a working class neighborhood. It's more affordable, not so far from the highway. It's an accessible venue. That's what people have lost. Now we've lost a place where the biggest companies can pack a house, and the guys that just started a month ago can begin their dream. So this affects so many different circles, Rosenberg said. That was the kind of place where it's like, if you made it to Berwyn Eagles, you can make it anywhere. The first time I heard of Berwyn Eagles was it, I get confused sometimes, Shimmer, right? Not Shine, Shimmer. They would like do like massive tapings, and then they would sell the DVDs or the VHS tapes everywhere. When did you first hear of this Eagles Club, John?
Same exact thing. I can't think of like, and maybe AAW, but other than that, I can't think of anybody else that necessarily worked there a lot. Just like kind of like local indie shows, basically.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but I don't think it's over. I think that, it's a good revenue driver. Nothing actually happened. They're not actually banned. It'll just make sense for everyone to come together again. How do you think this will play out, John?
I think we just got to give it some time, and I do think that all's well that ends well. I feel like they'll be kind of right back in the thick of things again pretty soon.
Yeah. So speaking of incidents, before we get into all the news of WrestleMania weekend,
yeah.
There was a ton of incidents. Of course, first, not certainly. I mean, none of the incidents we make light of, but one female talent, of course, claiming that she was assaulted at a meet and greet, and then following the fan and posting their picture, and then there was a number of physical altercations between wrestlers and fans, whether it was Elias getting I think somebody was drunk and they jumped on the stage and they bumped him and then he El Kabonged them, or who was it, somebody choking Big Vito, right, who follows me on X, choking a fan, or CM Punk slapping a phone out of somebody's hands. Apparently the hotel that they were in made it more difficult. The fans were super aggressive. Maybe it's just more social media than ever before, but what do you think of all this?
Man, it's crazy. I feel like the fans are getting way too comfortable being like complete weirdos and freaks. And like, you got to leave the female talent alone. That's, first of all, that's just so creepy and weird. And then even the wrestlers too. Like, I know they get no privacy; they're public people, but quote unquote. But there's got to be better security for these guys too. It's just completely out of control. These fans, like X-Pac was talking about, and Booker T, like they were following him into the bathroom and like recording and stuff. Like, that's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, that's just like creepy as hell. I mean, come on. So I feel like the fans are out of control. Not the wrestlers, just the fans.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Booker T. Just ask Batista.
No. Yeah, that's true. But he kicked Batista's ass. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Booker T. He's one of the tough guys. Vito, too. I know he's got some mafia ties, like legitimately, so I wouldn't mess with Vito either.
Yeah, first I alluded to it when tweeting about it, but like acknowledging that he's connected, so I didn't want to cause any problem. It was kind of like I don't know though, but like it seemed like the wrestlers outside of course the first example with the assault on the female talent, but you know in terms of the male wrestlers fighting with the fans, like it seemed like there was like a short trigger though, right? Like it was sort of like a thing like, okay, I'm just gonna attack. You know, maybe not saying that you know they should have taken any abuse or if somebody was doing something wrong, but like maybe it's like a company thing. You know, there just should be more protection because you see this everywhere, right? We talked about this on our Ultimate Fighters podcast with Madonna, like talking to you know the media in Atlantic City when they went to the big Mike Tyson fight. Just leave us alone, right? Like people will swarm and you know go crazy or whatever it may be. But John, like I used to stand outside Madison Square Garden for like the staff entrance.
Yes.
And like it was so much fun. Like if a wrestler didn't want to talk, and I remember Poppy Chulo and Lita like jogging quickly on because they didn't want to deal with the fans, but no one chased them and no one was that interested at the time. Obviously, Lita became
Oh my God, I remember SummerSlam 05. Waiting by the entrance in Washington D.C. You know, you're just like hanging out with friends. You're wasting time. We didn't want to walk back to the hotel yet. These people were like chasing Undertaker's car down and stuff. They're fans are crazy. They've always been crazy. They've always been a little crazy.
I was going to go the other way, John, but you're probably right. Right, it reminds you of the '70s. You'd hear the stories of the '70s and '80s banging on the card. But like back then, at least for the group that I saw, it was kind of respectful. Like,
yeah, I don't think like they were like trying to do anything crazy. I think they were just trying to be like funny. Like, let's get the Undertaker. Like, nowadays you never know with these weirdos. Nowadays, who knows?
You'd have like Bob Backlund coming on. He would only give you the autograph, right? If you knew all the presidents and all that sort of stuff. But it's also like the access to talent is different because back then I remember like in the New York Daily News they'd be like the Undertaker's doing an autograph signing at a car lot on Friday afternoon, and my mom went and I couldn't go out of school, but she's like, I'll go and I'll take pictures for you. So it was cute. Like my mom has pictures with the Undertaker and he signed my my magazine or whatever. Like there'd be those type of like signings, but now it's like everything is like Fanatics Fest, $750 and whatever. So it's like it's a different type of fandom. So like when you actually see people quote unquote like out in the wild, like you're gonna react in a different way. But obviously people have to act normal. I mean that's a big ask, but maybe the talent should have a different approach. But I think it's really like comes down to like corporate planning.
Yeah. Definitely. So give me some week fallout of WrestleMania. Give me all the deets.
So another really interesting article and an element that's been less reported on, right? People are talking about, oh, low ticket sales, whatever. Richard Velota of the Las Vegas Review Journal had an article titled "Ticket Prices Down for Event, but Weekend Hotel Rates Soar." While ticket prices for WrestleMania have declined, hotel and Airbnb rates surrounding the event have gone up, an event analyst said. Ticket prices to attend the premiere event being staged in Vegas have been reduced from last year, according to Ben Mendelowitz, a research analyst for sports betting site Vegas Insider. While total trip costs have fallen sharply year over year, accommodation pricing in Vegas continues to spike during WrestleMania weekend, driven by short-term demand. Mendelowitz said that average prices for Airbnb and hotel bookings was $425.96. Imagine somebody's like Airbnb. I thought it was supposed to be because it was cheap. Then spiked by 25% to $539 this weekend. Okay, so that's normally what the prices are. The price for the weekend following averaged $479, so you can see a clear spike. The week-to-week change in accommodation rates shows WrestleMania is a viable needle-moving event. Vegas Insider did not take into account that a major convention for the National Association of Broadcasters, expected to attract more than 50,000 people, also begins Saturday in Vegas. So maybe these numbers don't mean much, right? Because you have another major event that happens to align. The biggest news, though, to me, John, was the end of Bloodsport.
That was surprising to me because I kind of, and maybe I still don't understand why. Like, what's the story behind it? Why did Josh want to? I know it went on Ariel Helwani, but why did Josh Barnett kind of want to end Bloodsport? And technically speaking, wasn't Bloodsport around with Matt Riddle before Josh kind of became on board. So I don't know. I'm just intrigued. What's going on with this?
I kind of want to cut a promo on Josh Barnett, John.
No. Come on.
Okay, so let me say this in a calmer way.
Yes.
Josh Barnett. So let me talk about the career of Josh Barnett. So he was popped for steroids and lost his UFC title, stripped of it, and then kind of went his own way. Now, there was a promotion called Affliction. They paid their fighters very, very well. And for the third Affliction, they were going to have Fedor against Josh Barnett.
Yep.
And it's complicated, and it's actually covered well in Ultimate Fighters, Donald Trump, Dana White, and UFC's Road to the White House. But the biggest reason, at least on its face, as to why the third event was canceled, was that Josh Barnett was actually tested weeks earlier than the event. And according to an executive from Affliction, who was quoted in the book from other media sources, a number of them, that he didn't tell them that he was tested, and he knew he wasn't going to pass the test. So basically, Josh Barnett killed Affliction. Then we have this lovely little thing called Bloodsport, which wasn't his. And maybe the name is No One's in Wrestling, right? Because it's owned by a film company. But it was Matt Riddle's Bloodsport under GCW. And of course, Josh Barnett got it, and he did a wonderful job. He brought in his people, even WWE people, crossed over, lovely little thing. And then he says that it's ending. But Brett Lauderdale says that, we'll continue. So why dim the prospect for someone else, to have success with it? So that's my issue with Josh Barnett. And Josh Barnett, I've been training in jiu-jitsu for 19 lessons now. So if you want to get on the mat,
Oh, he would absolutely destroy you. Are you crazy?
It's a joke. So he was on Ariel Helwani's show and saying, I wasn't trying to make a big deal of it. I didn't want it to come off as a gimmick. There was a lot of conflicting feelings with my own heart about whether this was going to be the case or not. When all is said and done, I feel like I absolutely made the right choice here. It wasn't for anything negative. There wasn't a tragedy, and there wasn't some overarching bad issue or problems in that sense. For me, Bloodsport had an evolution of where it was trying to get to, and we're just not there. We're not close. For me, it was better to end it now than to keep it going, quite possibly diminish what the product is. Brett Lauderdale had said, Josh Barnett has been a great partner. His passion for the art of the fight is second to none. I will miss working with him. Josh's version of Bloodsport may have come to an end, but the legacy lives on. The fight has just begun. Who or what is next for Bloodsport? Stay tuned. So let's stay here a moment, John. So one more issue with Josh Barnett, and then we'll move on to where they can go from here. Josh Barnett put himself in every main event in Bloodsport. Of somebody of a similar age, I can respect that, but he really couldn't go anymore. It was really disrespectful to the fighters that he had on there to continue to promote himself. So that is a shame. But moving forward, I think there is something here, John, but I'm just not sure if you can move forward with Bloodsport as a name. Shoot Fighting is not is not owned by anyone right now. I don't know if that's the best name either.
Yeah, but Brett has even said, because there was Bloodsport before him, the Bloodsport can continue on, just won't be Josh Barnett's Bloodsport.
Yeah, so GCW can tomorrow hold the Bloodsport show. I'd imagine. I don't know if there was any contractual agreement to get Josh Barnett on board, how this all worked out, or just holistically, he just felt it was his after a while. Maybe Josh Barnett's Bloodsport is something that's Bloodsport. But I would say, to make it more sustainable, if it's going to be just a collective weekend and once or twice a year, and it's just under GCW's banner, then yes, keep it Bloodsport. People recognize it. You'll probably sell it out, whatever. But I think there is something here in terms of shoot style in the US, even with all the challenges that it has. But it's always been awkward with GCW in that, when I went to Bloodsport in Brooklyn, then there'd be ads for not ads, but promos on their screens for GCW's other shows, and it just didn't like jive. I think you should have it separate. So think you need a separate name. It has to be run separately, and either you keep it going the way it is, or like Josh Barnett said, like you really do need an infrastructure. You need an investor. Harder said than done. Some people have been talking about WWE and why are they like circling it so much and giving them opportunity. What do you speculate that relationship is all about, John?
That is kind of interesting too, because like they're there, they're watching it. They're literally in person. Like I'm kind of curious too, and they do the thing in NXT that Shane McMahon, the underground, if you will, NXT. So they do that. It's like a kind of a version of it. So I wonder if there's something more to it, or if they think that's an actual draw, if they like it or not.
Maybe it could be, and we'll talk about this later, sort of like that RAF UFC type of relationship where it's like kind of distant because like putting it the NXT underground doesn't really work like under that umbrella. It's just like misaligned. But if you wanted to like fund something, give it a little bit of breathing room, maybe like work with like a smaller partner, you could build something out here. So because it would be a shame to see something like this go away. It's a fun show. It's an easy concept. It's a simple concept, but if you bring in intriguing wrestlers to do it, there could be something there. So I think that's enough of blood sports, so I don't get myself in more trouble with Josh Barnett, and we can look at some more of the weekend there. So that, of course, smoothly transitions to the collective. So not going to go show by show on the collective because I think we did that pre-show in terms of the business side. But just Brett's reflections on it, actually, like while it was going on. Great crowds from Death Vegas and Bloodsport, Collective, at the Collective, and Spring Break is approaching 2,000. But the second biggest of the weekend is officially Juggalo Championship Wrestling. I was quickly scrolling through. They put up the whole show for free, John. The
YouTube.
Juggalo show, yeah, on YouTube, and just get a little bit of sense with that. It looks, well produced, good cameras or whatever. Like, I'm not sure, it's my thing to watch the whole thing, but I would confirm that from what Brett said, just in terms of looking at the ticket sales. Joy Janelle Spring Break looked packed out. I don't know. Brett had mentioned once like having, risers. I don't think they ended up doing that. It looks like a low ceiling anyway, so I'm not sure how many more seats you could have got off the ground. So that was the collective, but just like a little bit more about WrestleMania weekend. So we talked about it. Mance Warner defeated Krule for the IWTV Independent Championship. Mance Warner is a great, unfortunately, uncontracted wrestler right now. He's with TNA, and then a little bit of fallout with his wife and so on. And he chose to leave, from what I understand. But a great representative for IWTV right now. And Adam Lash, who actually was one of the first people that was running IWTV, even back when it was called Powerbomb, and then left after a while. Companies from all over have run Vegas this year and taken baths. It's good that fans want to be supportive, but there isn't a single one of those groups that wouldn't have benefited from using all that money to run a big marquee event in their home area instead. Totally agree. Outside of, the most successful collective events and House of Glory, and we'll get into, I'm not sure if we'll get into that too much, but yeah, I think that's a good point. I think like WrestleMania has just become like an ego thing.
You got to be out there. Yes. You got to be a part of it. Yes. Even though you're going to lose money, you got to be out there. You got to be part of it. Yeah, it's definitely part of it. Ego thing. Alternatively, though, some of the other stuff for Mania weekend, did that do good or no? Some of the other stuff.
So, John, this is an interesting take that's starting to grow some momentum. Is like an alternative weekend next year. So they'll be in Saudi Arabia, and even people like Paul Walterhauser are talking about it. What do you think about like a weekend in San Francisco, which was a suggestion of Scotty, one of the promoters that ran multiple shows. I think Shooting Star Fest was involved in the FSW type of stuff. And Paul Walterhauser said, wish all non-WWE companies would put their egos aside and band together to create something new and monumental. Forbidden Door dream matches, meet and greets under the same roof, podcasts and panel discussions. Paul Walterhauser, we know you got the cash. You want us out there? I'll speak for John on this. You just gotta pony up, and we'll get out there. Wrestling talent where fans vote on the winner, charitable component. So basically, an alternative, sort of like an all-in weekend, but without that major show, but like more of like a fest type of thing.
Yeah, I like it. You do it.
So we'll see if that gets some momentum going. But yeah, nothing I would say like too much more notable outside of that for WrestleMania weekend. Those other shows which we talked about is really House of Glory stood out, TJPW and Maple Leaf and whatever. I don't think they did that well as far as I could tell.
Are you watching the NWA? Are you keeping up with the NWA? Are you keeping up with Billy Corgan? What's going on with NWA right now?
Only in the sense that it's good to see the TV deal finalized. I was getting a little bit nervous for Joe Galli, right? Because he announced it, and then I'm sure he wouldn't do it without permission or whatever, but then there was no announcement. So Sinclair announced it, which is kind of fun to see, which, throwback to the Ring of Honor days, but in a different way. Billy Corgan's NWA joins Comet TV on May 1st. Sinclair's Comet TV is teaming up with Billy Corgan, frontman of the Grammy Award-winning iconic band The Smashing Pumpkins and president of NWA, to bring NWA Power back to over the air for the first time in more than 3 decades. Kicking off May 1st and 2nd, NWA Power launches on Comet with a 2-night 1-2 punch premiere, Friday in primetime at 10, followed by an all-new episode Saturdays at 4, with encore presentations both nights. Following the premieres, NWA Power will air weekly on Saturdays at 4, with encores at midnight. So really not a huge deal, but not a risky proposition for them either, right? They're already paying to produce this show. It'll be the same show that will that's also airing on Pluto. Now there have been talk about some more content on Pluto, but I don't think that's come to fruition that I'm aware. So non-prime time. So maybe, if it shows some life, maybe they'll put it out there in prime time. But Comet is a very branded sci-fi channel, so it's a little bit risky. But they are starting out with prime time at 10. So maybe we'll get a rating on that, as the network does a little bit under 100,000 on average.
What is going on with RAF, Real American Freestyle?
So Chad Bronstein, who I don't think had done a lot of media appearances before, was on Ariel Helwani's show. I have a relationship with Hunter Campbell from being Juliana Pena's agent. We have a great relationship with them. Everyone looks at it as, hey, we're not out there talking bad about anybody. I think we're a great platform for all 3 of us to work together, because fighters may only be able to fight once or twice a year in the UFC. If someone has the opportunity to wrestle 4 or 5 times more throughout the year and their brand and name are out there, it only helps everyone. So yeah, there's always been like a lot of questions about allowing UFC fighters on the show. And I think that access has really allowed you to have these huge name talents wherever they are positioned in their career, to do something that's very physical and engaging, but not really dangerous, in terms of canceling a fight. In, training for a fight in the gym, you'd have to be going this hard at least, right? So there's not a huge risk there, but, sort of talk about who owns what or whatever. So as I shared, in 2025, it was announced with the WWE sponsorship deal of Real American Beer that Bronstein also owns, that TKO is taking a piece of that. So you have corporate ownership. It doesn't exactly cross over that we're aware of yet, but it just makes sense that everyone has these relationships, and the deal works for everyone. It'll just be interesting, with Real American Freestyle, if they want to use a number of people that the UFC sort of has as persona non grata, people they don't want to deal with, or sort of like have banned if they'll be like, don't use them here either. I guess that would be dangerous for them in terms of like a lawsuit or anything like that, but that would be something unique to keep an eye out for. But we don't know if the burn rate or profitability of Real American Freestyle, but just in terms of a brand, I think it's far exceeded everyone's expectations. Maybe it was the greatest of all time, John, Hulk Hogan, that really knew it. But what do you think about Real American Freestyle since it began?
It's doing a lot better than I thought it would do. So I got to give them props. I feel like they're doing good business right now, and they're very successful. So can't knock them quite yet. So that's for sure.
Yeah, speaking about Hulk Hogan, and I want to ask this very respectfully, John, is that, you watched the documentary and he said when he was in TNA, he was taking, all these things and, they were lethal doses. Do you think that was, hype, attention, or that was like, the state that he was in?
I think it was the state that he was in at that point in time. Not a lot of good stuff as far as just like family stuff was going on at that point. So not good for the Hulkster.
Yeah. And I guess it's hard. I mean, they haven't marketed it so much. In the past, they've attached a name to it. It's hard to be like, and we have, Hulk Hogan and whatever those 6 or 7 matches that he did, which we went over in depth in a special episode once, like to be like, we have a great, archive of Hulk Hogan. And, now it's people remember it most. Like when he was in TNA, he had to do, this or that, which could have killed him.
Yeah. Crazy. So, changing gears though, let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm kind of surprised, like, because the amount of tickets sold for the show is great, but the fact that they put so many on sale makes it not look good. So what's going on with New Japan?
Yeah, so July 11th, the G1 Climax, so it's inching closer, but still plenty of time. 2,603 tickets sold. Of course, when you have this midpoint, it's not close to when they first put it on sale. It's not close to going on sale. So you have it inching forward a little bit. 76 tickets distributed. So let's say it's 1,200 tickets, over the next 10, 11 weeks. 3,800, maybe they get to 4,000. That's not bad, especially for New Japan as a brand. Excellent. But like you said, John, available tickets over 5,000 are available, and it's set up for 7,813. So yeah, that might have been ambitious, but I think it's not going to be impossible just to upgrade people and move them down, or like shift sections over. Maybe they should have been a little bit more conservative about that. But I'm imagining, because there are cheap tickets on sale, $30, $31.80, that maybe they want to have those tickets available right away, which isn't a bad strategy either.
So what's going on in TNA wrestling? Your favorite? What, we haven't covered TNA yet. What's going on with them? So
this isn't the first time it happened, and it's a little bit odd that they announce like a major pre-sale and then something happens and they have to move it to a different time, especially when you're trying to align it like not just attention for that one city, but like to make it a big deal for all the cities. So they had to shift it to a week later. So now April 29th is when the pre-sale tickets will go on sale, and then May 1st to the general public, Denver, Boston, Albany, Philadelphia, Chicago, Brampton, and San Antonio. So not the biggest deal in the world, but something that they should work out in the future. Our friends at Body Slam, Gerard, had the coverage of updates from the Doha show that TNA does, typically Super Slam 4, of course, once every year, with Qatar, Pro Wrestling, of course, with the war in the region and all those issues. That's been bumped to October 24th. Now, Sacramento is ahead of us, not till mid-May, but slow ticket sales at the moment, $691 and $684 in a somewhat mid-sized building. Total seats on the map, 3,000. So kind of slow in that regard. And maybe next week or the week after, we'll be able to reflect on how those all those on sales, how the ticket sales go.
Are we going back to the world of GCW? What's going on here? We're going back to the Game Changer.
Yeah, I feel like the collective is like one thing, and then closer to WrestleMania as they bring in and sort of host a number of brands, or as Brett had shared, he produces all of the collective.
That is true. That is true.
Looking at ahead past, now we are past the collective, so they have a little bit of a breather. I think maybe a JCW show in the middle there, but in May, so Joppa, Maryland. Then we'll come back to the one night only in Philadelphia, mid-May, Detroit. So Detroit is interesting because their friends at Juggalo Wrestling have run a number of free shows in the venue. So I wonder if it's difficult to draw now. And it would attract somewhat of a crossover base. In the St. Louis area, Sauget, Illinois, the following day, it's a rare triple weekend for them. West Des Moines, Iowa, Ring of Dreams. So that may be a debut for them. Then they are in Europe, in Frankenreich and Italy. We'll come back to that. Tournament of Survival 11, Cage of Survival in June. Wildwood, New Jersey, which we talked about. Cincinnati. Bow Down, I don't have a location yet. And then back again to LA, which is probably their consistent, strongest venue over the last 2 years. That's on June 7th. So 2,300 arena, one night only. The reserved have long been sold out, which I reported on. It used to be when you search for the GA, 30 tickets at a time you could find, 25 tickets at a time you could find. Now you could find 20 at a time. So moving along, Brett reported that Italy is sold out. It's a small venue that hosts Italian independent wrestling. Tournament of Survival. The fifth row is nearly sold out. Sixth row available. I think they can go a few more rows deeper and then go into the GA. So the death match continues to be strong and reflecting back on between the sheets. Again, they had a good point that the deathmatch wrestling generally overperforms over regular independent wrestling. So that's another reason why we see it so much.
Your favorite topic is Triller. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt or debate about that. What's going on with Triller?
John, if I was an institutional investor, I could be a very wealthy man right now. But I guess to be an institutional investor, oftentimes you do have to have the access to those resources. Because when the stock was at a penny or a fraction of a penny, would you throw $1,000 at it? Right? Who knows what could happen? So the stock was down to a 0.03 and it rose 0.38. So as of where it stands today, 0.41. That's a 1,266% gain. Cool. So somebody, if you put down $1,000, you'd make over $1 million, right? If I have that math correct. But it's hard to be an institutional investor and also to take those risks. Now, Triller had a filing, and this is really interesting. No income from social media and sports streaming segments are generated during the year ended December 31st, 2025. Now, I'm not talking about profit, because they lost $5 million in sports streaming in 2025, and they lost $6 million in sports streaming in 2024. So they mitigated those losses, but they didn't make any income from sports streaming. What I'm thinking is that maybe, and this is just speculation, with AEW, right? We had talked about who gets paid first. Maybe they owed money and it went directly to a promotion like that, or they had to pay out because they were behind. So maybe that wasn't counted as revenue. I don't know how you work on that for accounting, but certainly there was revenue coming in, because if somebody bought a pay-per-view or subscribed to Triller Plus, that would be considered revenue, not profit, right? So I don't know how they're accounting for that, but obviously not raising alarm bells on that, but obviously they've had issues, in the past with staying, within compliance, but they are back on the NASDAQ. So I didn't think that would happen. So that's impressive of them. But talking about promotions that they're working with, we saw obviously AEW moving away from them as much as possible, and now it's completely done. We're writing to let you know that AEW Plus is being discontinued. AEW and ROH's pay-per-views are also no longer available for purchase on Triller TV. If you have an active AEW Plus subscription, it will end on your next billing date. You'll have full access until that date. Any pay-per-views you've watched previously purchased will remain available to watch in your account. So that's good. They're keeping them there. And then a smaller thing, but just showing the issues ongoing. Pro Wrestling Revolver is leaving Triller and officially moving to YouTube, starting this Saturday with Revolver Strong Live. The back catalog will be uploaded eventually to their YouTube channel as well.
Now, as far as another favorite topic of yours that you liked it, but obviously it's more all over the place. What about here and there?
Yes, John, I kept this in for you. I could have easily called this WXW, but I thought it was here and there.
Yeah, so, got to be here and there.
Alpha Jr., who's obviously been on the scene for a long time, and part of the legacy. Of course, it's been on WrestleMania. There was also that incident in Queens, in the Queens Brewery. But WXW coming home to where it should have never left, Allentown. WXW soon will relaunch in Allentown, returning to Mountainville Memorial Hall, the longtime base of the promotion founded by the late Alpha Sr. Presented by Battlefield Pro Wrestling, the revival will begin May 3rd with WXW Homecoming, with plans to run shows the first Sunday of every month. It seeks to revive a dynamic that made the city a pipeline for wrestling, where wrestlers came through to sharpen their personas. For Alpha Jr., the return is more than nostalgia. It's an attempt to reestablish Allentown's role in the wrestling ecosystem. Not just as a place that remembers its history, but as one that actively builds what comes next. WXW to me has always been Allentown. That's where my dad lived. That's where the whole WXW idea was born, in the Lehigh Valley. He traces that history through a network of now defunct venues and training spaces, from the first gym tucked under Jordan Lanes to television tapings at the Days Inn. But Mountainville, he said, remained the most consistent. Mountainville specifically has always been home, and that's always been the monthly show for all these guys getting ready to go to TV. It was a place, a platform for my father's students to always, chop it up with the best in the business. The goal now is not just to return, but to rebuild. Allentown is always in our plans as far as being the next pipeline. That pipeline already exists in pieces. Alpha Jr. runs a training center in the Poconos and has spent recent years rebuilding a roster that now approaches 100 wrestlers, enough to sustain multiple brands under the Battlefield umbrella. The intent is to develop talent locally, give them consistent ring time, and ultimately position them for opportunities. We've helped Casey Navarro. He just returned to TNA. We have guys in NWA. We have guys in AEW. We had guys signed with NXT. We had Jacob Fatu here before he went full-time. But for those chasing that dream, the path is neither quick nor uniform. From my experience and people with my family, it's usually around 10 years that you're on this journey. So definitely a really interesting story. Seek it out. It's by Stephanie Sigafus. Lehigh Valley News, Homecoming, WXW return ties Allentown's past to wrestling's future.
Nice. Very good stuff there, Lavie. Just going to throw this out there, an interesting note. I don't know if anybody particularly cares about this or not. I know we would, but Dave Meltzer gave Roman Reigns versus CM Punk WrestleMania 42 Night 2 5 stars. So 5-star match there.
So I didn't see it, John, but I heard good things. But what is 5 stars anymore, right? Because that's not the best that he can do, right? Because it could. What was the highest one?
I always feel like he's being overly critical of WWE. So if you get 5 stars in WWE, like that's you really earned it, if you will. I feel like he just gave them the AEW like their cookies. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you get it. Like it's Oprah. You get 5 stars, and you get 5 stars.
Exactly.
Although I do love Dave, but this is very nice. It's funny. It's the old quote unquote. The old and slow CM Punk, as the internet loves to throw out there and say, second 5-star match. The other one was the Hell in a Cell against Drew McIntyre. That match was awesome. This match was awesome. I don't know if these people are paying attention because Punk's run has been phenomenal.
I've heard good things. I'm no longer a Punk fan. So I'm a little bit biased in that way.
Gosh, the heck.
Just because of his interactions and advocacy and so on. But John, I was totally different thing, and something that brings us back to Bloodsport. Reminder, but not exactly. I finally read Natty Neidhart's book, and
Nice.
I
What
know
did you
she
think? Did you like
showed.
it?
Yeah, and I know she showed your forthcoming book, of course, about her uncle Brett's love
Yep.
on social media. I enjoyed it very, very much. I thought it was really good, really enjoyable, very recommended. And something that I mentioned to you, John, Waylon Mercy's book was quite a surprise to me. Maybe I should read the subheadline or description a little bit better. That book was very unexpected. I was really, usually I feud with this person, I went to that territory. He has a very dark background, and it really does not include much about pro wrestling, but it has a final twist at the end that's surprising, and seems like he's in a good place now. So it all wraps up again, but it's sort of like the old days of the NWO heat, and it's hard to see any light at the end of the tunnel.
Nice. All right. Good stuff. So we're getting some book recommendations on the show as well, Lavie. You got to love that.
Yeah, and if I could recommend any book, well, equally to the forthcoming Bret Hart book, of course, but Ultimate Fighters, Donald Trump, Dana White, and UFC's Road to the White House.
All right, everybody, check that out. Everybody, thank you for listening. Let's wrap up this bad boy. Let's head towards the place. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Lavie.
Follow me on X at LavieMarg, LavieMarg. Check out excerpts from Ultimate Fighters and long-form articles on LionCubJobSearch.com, and help us get to 150 members in the LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business.
All right. Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there for listening. See you right back here next week for the business of the business. See you next week, folks.